Hello everyone, this is Foxhound, coming back again with another video tutorial. This one is by request, so this is going to be a quick tips and tricks. If I consider I need to update the video, I will do so. But the topic that we are going to cover today is how to handle 1-versus-1 situations against another carrier. Okay, so this is not an easy topic, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. Okay, so before I continue, bear in mind, in most cases, I highly encourage you all, in general, to try not to be in a situation when you are on a 1-versus-1 against another carrier. Okay, so that's the first advice that I had to give you. You need to do everything in your power to make sure that you have 1 or 2 allies alive to take out the last carrier, or submarine for that matter, that may be. Okay, in order to prevent even to be on a situation when you are going to be on a 1-versus-1 against another carrier, what is strongly recommended is to use your fighter, yes, which is over here, and or to use either the drone or a strike fighter that has the capability to take out other planes. Okay, so for example, if I go through the list, for instance, I can select, for example, FS 2020. Yeah, this is a strike fighter that allows to take out planes as well, not just the ships. So that is my first advice before anything else. You need to try to protect your team, so you are not on a situation when you are doing a 1-versus-1 against a strike fighter. And I think with that, I think that's the almost by itself the best advice that I can give you, because you are going to try to avoid that situation altogether. Okay. Bear in mind, this is also influenced by the type of carrier or assault carrier that you are going to use. Okay, so for instance, if you pick a carrier such as, for instance, something that I don't have and then I'm going to consider getting, for instance, let's see if I go over here, right? I got a ship that I didn't buy before. For instance, let's go for this one, FSDCN Evolved. Okay, this thing has 1 strike fighter and 3 drones. Okay, what's the catch over here? The strategy, let's put it this way, behind this carrier is to take out ships as quickly as possible, because you do not have countermeasures, yeah, to take out other planes. Yeah, so that means your team is not protected against other planes. Okay, so the reason why, I mean, if we're watching this, the reason why you feel that you may be on a situation that you are on a 1-versus-1 against another carrier may be that the type of carrier that you chose does not have a fighter. Okay, there are exceptions to the rule. For instance, if I select my Charles de Gaulle, for example, right? If I go to my favorites and I choose my Charles de Gaulle, right? This ship does not have a fighter. However, in my Charles de Gaulle, I always have 1 plane, in this case the Su-39. I always have 1 plane that is able to take out other planes. So in my strategy, let's put it this way, when I'm using Charles de Gaulle, I am going to use my strike fighter as to cover the role of the fighter at the same time. So if I am using this and I see other planes on the air, I am going to use the missile. I will always have it on the ready to take out other planes. Okay, so you need to embed that in your situation, meaning if you choose a carrier or an assault carrier that does not have a fighter, which are, in this case, F-Spank does not have a fighter, okay? Ghost Commander does not have a fighter. CNT Engine does not have a fighter. And of course, there are a couple of other carriers down there, Sumo, the NS Evolved, Sinchuan. There are others that do not have a fighter. So you need, for those particular instances, to have a fighter, a strike fighter, or to have a drone that is able to take out other planes. Okay, so that is very, very, very critical, and for your strategy as well. In the future, I'm going to discuss about different strategies for assault carriers. They are different if you don't have a plane, a fighter. So we are going to discuss that for the moment. Okay, so that's my first advice. Okay, this is even more prevalent. I know this is going to sound in advance, but it's even more critical if you start a match and you face a nemesis. So it's even worse when you are facing a nemesis, because usually when you are facing a nemesis, you most likely, like 90% of the time, if you are 1 versus 1 against a nemesis, most likely you will not be able to win, because the nemesis is able to sink and to come out. So it really can disrupt, let's put it this way, your attack, and plus it has a lot of defenses. And Nemesis is a monster, so in order to win a fight against a Nemesis, you have to add another layer, let's put it this way, on your attack, that if you launch your fighter and your fighter goes down, you switch for a small period of time to your, if your strike fighter attacks and is out of missiles or whatever, or dies, then you switch to your fighter for at least 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and you readjust your fighter so it starts to take out planes, and then you continue to the other plane that you're going to launch, for example the drone or the bomber. If the drone goes down, switch a bit to the fighter to readjust, and then go to the bomber, and so back and so forth. So the fight with Nemesis requires you to go back and forth, between the different planes, and always to go back to your fighter, so that way it's able to take out other planes. So that way you prevent yourself to be facing a carrier by yourself. Okay, so those are all the countermeasures that you can do in order not to be in a position when you are on a 1 versus 1 against another player. Okay, and the best thing you can do, that's the first advice. If you are winning the match, if you have, let's say, like 2 other ships and there is the other carrier on the other side, so you have 2 allies, you and another carrier, my advice is to use your fighter to constantly align your fighter to make sure that is going to attack other planes. Use your strike fighter, if it has the capability, of course, to take out other planes. If it has to, not mandatory on this type of assault carriers that have a fighter. And that way you will be able to prevent to be on the 1 versus 1. Okay? Now that we have said that, I'm going to start with explaining how to handle the 1 versus 1. Let's say you did everything in your power to avoid that situation. Okay? You did everything in your power to avoid that situation, but you are still on a 1 versus 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the test drive. Okay? And now I'm going to give you a couple of indicators on how to handle a 1 versus 1. I'm also going to go through a couple of my own recorded videos on YouTube, so you can even go back to my videos, and I'm going to comment on those over here, and I'm going to tell you my thought process when I went on a 1 versus 1. Okay, so first of all, let's assume for a moment that Gerald Ford is going to be the carrier that I'm going to take out. Okay, so my first advice before anything else is to be aware of what type of carrier or assault carrier you are facing. Meaning, if you are facing a standard assault carrier, most likely they have a fighter, a strike fighter, a drone, and a bomber. Okay, there is a limited amount of reserves that you can have for a drone and a bomber. They are not unlimited like a strike fighter. So you get like 3 reserves for the drone and 2 reserves from the bomber. Yeah, so you need to keep that in mind for the tactic that I'm going to mention, right? So for instance, if you are facing, let's say, a DNS Evolved, which has only drones, if you take out all its drones, the only thing they will have left is a strike fighter. Okay, if you are facing a punk, if you are able to take down again its drone and bomber, they are only left with the strike fighter. So you need to be aware of what you are facing in order to decide what is going to be the strategy. Let's put it this way. Okay, so you're going to mention now, Foxhound, why are you going in reverse? Okay, there are 2 ways of handling a 1 versus 1 against a carrier. Okay, the first one is the one that I'm going to recommend. Okay, second one not so much, but still is a valid choice. Before you start the engagement, yeah, I understand that this is going to be easier said than done, but before you start the engagement, take yourself a time to breathe. I understand there is a lot of pressure on you. This is a 1 versus 1 situation, yeah, and it's very stressful. But the first advice is calm yourself. Breathe, okay? Situation. Try to recall the match. Try to state, okay, how many bombers do you think have died? How many drones do you think have died? Okay? Now that you have calmed down and you are in the 1 versus 1 situation, first thing I'd recommend before anything else is to launch the helicopters. Ideally, you have a set of helicopters that is able to take out other planes. Okay, it is always recommended to have nowadays you have 2 sets of helicopters. Before we only had 1, but now we are lucky we have 2 reserves. But ideally you want to have the 3 helicopters alive, so that way you have an extra layer of defense, let's put it this way. Okay, so make sure to launch your helicopters. We are going to start with the tactic of being far away from the carrier. Okay, so when you are far away, it is more difficult, let's put it this way, for the enemy to win if, first of all, they are stressed out, or they don't know how to do the tactic, or they are new assault carriers, or they are average. Okay, so distance is your key, because the key point over here is one word. It's called opening the map. Okay, so you need to be able to see the other assault carrier all the time if possible. Let's stop over here, in order to do your assault. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, you're going to launch your fighter if it's not already going up there, and you are going to, of course, scan where is the assault carrier. Okay, now that you have found the assault carrier, ideally you want to look at the map on the top left corner of the screen and see if there are other planes that are close to you. Okay, so if there are other planes close to you. or if there are other planes that are around the area. So you will use your fighter to align it towards the plane that is coming close to you. You can fire the missiles, or you can let the fighter do it by themselves. But the important thing is that you align the fighter to fight the other planes. Okay? So that's the first thing that you need to do. The second thing that you need to do when you are fighting another assault carrier, let's assume that it has started and you see on the map that you are being attacked, that your carrier is going to be attacked. You need to be at all times be aware. You see the missiles that came from my assault carrier. You need to be aware all the time if there are missiles that are going to attack your carrier. And what you do over there, as you notice in the top right corner of the screen, there is a button that allows you to go back to the carrier. So if you see on the map that you have missiles coming to your carrier, what you do is you go back to your carrier, unleash the flares, and then go back to your plane. So that way you are not hit by the missiles. The only reason why you will allow missiles to go through, let's put it this way, is if you are close to taking out the other carrier. If you are really attacking with a strike fighter and you see that it's close to ending, you can focus your attack on that. Okay? So that's the advice that I give you. If you see a plane that is attacking you, use your flares once and continue with your assault. Okay? Now, the tactic, what makes you win a fight? When you are in this type of situation, you need to use 2 planes at all times. You need to be able to have 2 planes at all times. Because what we are going to do right now is going to be like a strategy that one plane is going to attack and then it will come back and the next one will go. Okay? So you need to have 2 planes alive at all times. Okay? Most of the times it's going to be the strike fighter and the drone. Okay, the strike fighter and the drone. If you don't have another secondary, let's put it this way, plane, that the only thing that you have alive is your strike fighter, do not worry. I'm going to give you advice on that. But for the time being, you are going to be more aware. You're going to say, okay, I am in this 1 versus 1. I have only 1 drone left. Okay, let's imagine I only have 1 drone left. So the way to handle this, first of all, you are going to be a little more careful with your assault. Okay, what do I mean by that? By being more careful is that, for instance, if I attack a carrier, for example, right, and let's say that I launch 2 rounds of missiles to it, like right now, you don't want to get too hungry on attacking. Well, with the strike fighter, maybe yes, but most of the time what I would recommend after you do a maximum of 2 attacks is to reevaluate the situation, and my first recommendation is to turn back, and return your strike fighter to the assault carrier using the button that I explained on my basics tutorial, right? Remember the button on the top right corner of the screen that allows your strike fighter to return to the assault carrier. You can make even certain, if you turn to the left and you press the button, you are going to see that the assault carrier, the fighter, or the strike fighter in this case, going back to the assault carrier. Okay, with strike fighters you can afford to do more attacks and you can afford to lose a strike fighter, but bear in mind that if you do that, strike fighters take a time in order for you to launch another one of these, and that time is very precious, because usually when you are in a 1 versus 1 situation you can also run out of time. And even that, I will say that if you are on a match and you have 4 minutes, I think it's enough time to take out another carrier. If you have 3 minutes left in the match, it's a bit tight. If you have 2 minutes, I will say, and they are at full health, don't even bother. You are going to focus more on defending yourself using your fighter. So you are going to switch on strategy, and you are going to use your fighter to defend yourself, so you don't, at least you fall into a draw. Okay. So what do you do, Foxhound, after you attack with your fighter, right? You attack with your fighter and you have exhausted all the missiles, and then you died or you decided to turn away. Well, this is when you launch your drone. And while your strike fighter going up there is going back to base, you continue your assault with the drone. Or, well, the bomber is more unlikely. There are bombers that allow you to do this if you are extra careful. For example, Jackknife is a very clear example of this. Jackknife is a bomber that allows you to attack without getting close. It has missiles. So in a one-on-one situation, if you have the bomber, you have to be extra careful not to get too ambitious and do only one set of attack and turn back. Yeah, same situation with a drone. Yeah, so I'm going to have my drone. Let's imagine I do one attack. Okay, I'm over here, all good. This is the time when usually I start hearing that I'm being attacked. I may use my other attack, and then I'm going to definitely, it's not even like what I'm going to do like the fighter. You are going to definitely go back to the assault carrier. Meaning, again, when you have more planes on the air, you have at least 2, you are able to win that match, okay? Because you have at least 2 planes in the air most of the time. If you have a bomber that is able to attack from far away, then you are going to pretty much use the same tactic and try to keep it alive. This is when sometimes my subscribers say, Foxhound, you are using this plane like you are using the bomber like a strike fighter. Yes, I am, because this is a 1 versus 1. If you are on a situation when actually the bomber doesn't allow you to do that, for example, like the Spirit, then most likely you are going just to do that initial assault and then just let it die. If possible, return it back home, do the flares and return back. Remember, you can also use this in order to maintain the health on a couple of planes. Some of them have this feature if you are willing to spend the gold for it. I will only do that only if I'm using a specific bomber that requires you to do that, for example, Spirit, or this one even. Okay, so again, the idea over here is that you do your attack. Yes, you launch your missiles. Yeah, you are with your strike fighter. Yeah, you have done your first attack. You have done the second attack. Ideally, I want you to return back, flare, go back, and then go back to your drone and continue doing the assault. Yeah, so that way it feels that the enemy, the carrier, feels that it's on constant damage. What you are doing over here is emulating that you have a Charles de Gaulle, let's put it this way, because you want to make that feeling that the map is always open, that you are always attacking, and you constantly do that. If you are able to pull it off, at some point during that match, a lot of things will happen. The enemy may fall in despair, and that's when you are going to start seeing them coming close to you instead of being far away. You may start seeing them taking cover, or maybe they continue fighting. But at some point, they will run out of flares as well. So if you continue your assault, at some point they will run out of flares. Okay? And most likely that way you will be able to win. So I hope that what I said over here has been useful. Okay, I am going to close this match. Yeah, I'm going to finish the test drive, and I'm going to tell you other very important thing as well. The type of assault carrier or carrier that you choose for your strategies, whatever it is, you always need to bear in mind the amount of air defenses that you have. Okay, so for example, Enterprise has 6, Punk has more defenses, for instance. So you always need to be aware of what type of air defenses you have, right? And you need to have a sense of what air defenses your your enemy has. What air defenses do I recommend? Yeah, what air defenses I recommend. In me, in particular, I like to have at least KSAM, yeah, which is a free to play air defense that you can get. You can decide to use Talos. I prefer KSAM, but at least one of the two. And you want to have a good laser. I recommend Alka. HPLS is also fantastic. Actually, let's put it this way: on a situation when you are fighting other carriers, you could say that HPLS is better because it has more range and is able to take out planes slightly better than Alka. But Alka gives you more coverage against missiles. So it's very close between these two. I will choose Alka because now Alka is available. Guess where? Alka is available on the current battle pass over here. Here is Alka. So if you are a serious assault carrier player, here it is your Alka. If not, you get it from the market. Yeah, right now the price is around, let's put it this way, air defense is going to be around 1,500. Because the current battle pass came in, the prices went low, so technically this is the best time to get it. You're going to say, if Foxhound, but what if for some reason I don't have the air coins in order to do that? That's okay. You can still use KSAM and Talos. Yeah, even CDART and Talos, they come from the ranked store. So if you click here, for example, you go to ranked store and you go to equipment. Here you can get the air defense CDART. Talos will also be here. I don't have it here because I already bought all of them. There is a limit of Talos that you can get. So you can use Talos and you can use KSAM. If you go to equipment, right, air defenses, KSAM is going to be over here. All right. Do not use Garpoon. Yeah, please don't do that. Okay. KSAM, right? KSAM. If for some reason you don't have access to the ones that I mentioned previously from the ranked store, Crolate is your best option, but try to get the best air defense for your assault carrier or carrier. If for some reason you have an assault carrier that only allows you to have one, for example, Bank, some of them have a locked air defense. I'll give priority to the lasers, for example, Alka over here, as long as you have 3 or more, because if you have less than 3, it doesn't make a lot of sense to use a laser guided missile. Then you will switch to KSAM. Okay, so that is my recommendation regarding how to handle 1 versus 1. Let's put it this way. How long has it been? 29 minutes. Oh my goodness, 29 minutes. Okay, so that is my advice. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to I'm going to play one of my previous videos when I play a 1 versus 1. And I'm going to do a small comment on that. Okay, so I will be back and we take it from there. Okay, we are back. I am going to use this video as an example of one versus one against another assault carrier. So what is going to happen over here is that soon my friend over here is going to die. The assault landing ship. As you notice, I am low on health over here, right? And I am not counting the submarine in this particular case as a ship, let's put it this way, that is alive, because you are going to notice that the enemy assault carrier has AFGS. So the strategy already starts from right now. Even if you consider, you are going to notice that I am actively using my fighter already in order to take out any bombers, any drones that may be flying around the area. You see me that I was trying to find out the bomber, and I'm going to actively use my fighter in preparation for the 1 versus 1. Of course, I didn't know that it was going to be a 1 versus 1, but still you will see that I am going to actively use my fighter in order to make sure that I will have the highest chance of survival. This is when my assault is going to start. Soon the enemy is going to take out my friend over here. Yeah, now it's gone, as you can see. So we can consider that from this point onwards it is a 1 versus 1. Again, this the Enterprise, if you notice over here, has the AFGS to defend against torpedoes, and so technically the submarine is doing nothing, so it's a 1 versus 1. So what I'm doing over here, as you can see, is that I have a drone and I have a strike fighter in order to be able to fight out this Enterprise over here. So I am going to take my time. Of course, I'm going to abuse this is an amazing drone, let's be fair, because I used my tactic earlier on. I am the one that has the air superiority. You notice that I decided to take my drone back. I'm not going to risk it anymore because I want to have more planes in the air, and that is going to allow me to win this match. So my drone starts to go back, but because it was starting to go back, my map was still open, so I was still able to continue my assault with the next drone. I'm using Fujian over here just in case as an example. And this is pretty much how you are able to handle this type of situations. So there was a thought process going on. I was using my fighter actively to take out any other extra ships that my enemy had, and then after that I realized that now I have the upper advantage on health, so that's why I decided to just let my fighter do its thing more, let's put it this way. But at the beginning it was necessary for me to have advantage. So now this is just me using the tactic. Both of my drones are going back, and now I'm going to continue the assault with my strike fighter. The map is always open. I always have a plane on in this case the Enterprise, and that is pretty much game. So this was again as an example of how to handle a 1 versus 1 situation against other ships. I recommend you to see this video, fairly interesting. I have another 1 versus 1 against I think it was a Typhoon against an Enterprise. That was interesting to see. So I recommend you to see a couple of my videos. Sometimes I have a 1 versus 1 situation going on. So yeah, that is pretty much it for today. I hope that this video was useful. I'm going to stop it over here. As you notice, this is even a 3 versus 4 situation, what happened over here. But anyways, I hope this video was very useful, and I wish you the best of your endeavors against your fight against other assault carriers or carriers or whatever it is. Okay. So aside of that, thank you very much for watching. This is Foxhound signing off. Have a good day, everyone.